K-pop as a genre has gained massive traction the past few years, so you would think that more and more people would be interested in becoming idols. But given the demands of the K-pop industry, including the intense training periods and hectic schedules, many young people seem to be steering away from pursuing a career as an idol. Korea Creative Content Agency has found out that the number of K-pop trainees has dropped dramatically. According to the data that they have released to the public, there was a 38.3% drop in the number of trainees in just 2 years. In 2020, there were 1,895 trainees, while in 2022, there were only 1,170. However, the lack of trainees joining companies isn't the only problem that the industry is facing at the moment, as the number of trainees who were already represented by an agency has also decreased a lot. KCCA stated that the number of people who managed to make their debut has gone as low as 20%, from about 80% in 2016 to 65% in 2022. Seeing as companies spend a lot of money to train the people inside the company, and the fact that not a lot of them get to debut at the end, entertainment agencies have sort of given up on training trainees in general. But what's the reason for this decrease, and is it going to get any better soon? The explanation that industry experts have given to this phenomenon is that teenagers are changing their career choices and aren't really interested in becoming idols anymore. According to the Ministry of Education's annual survey, in 2009, being a singer was the 6th most desired career by primary school students, and between 2019 and 2021, it moved to the 9th place. When it comes to middle school students, being a singer was the 7th most desired profession, and after 2019, the career disappeared from the top 10. As for the high school students, the profession of singer hasn't been in the top 10 rankings ever since 2009. It seems like this happened because young people have noticed how much easier being an influencer is. The whole thing takes significantly less time and effort, and if things go right, you get paid immediately. You can't say the same thing about being an idol. People know that once they become trainees, they have to give up all parts of their normal life. They have to lose sleep as they stay up until late practicing, and if they're still students, they also attend classes on top of everything. Another downside of being an idol or even a trainee is enduring strict diets and constant weight monitoring by the company. According to idols who have shared their experiences with the fans and the public, normal meals consist of food like chicken breast and salad, but in most instances, trainees don't eat anything at all in hopes of reaching their weight goal. Unfortunately, all idols have told stories in which they either ate nothing for long periods of time or survived on things like coffee, cucumbers, or even ice cubes. They have also recalled how they have seen trainees fainting or being sent to the hospital because of these diets. The lack of nutrients, combined with the intense training and lack of sleep, will obviously have effects on one's health. In addition to the diets, there's also the extreme weight monitoring by companies. Rainbow's Kim Jae-kyung had once shared that the agency would go as far as to check their weights every week, and the results would be displayed for everyone to see. This created a lot of stress and pressure within the trainees, and it would lead to them cutting their nails, going to the bathroom often, and even spitting out saliva just so they would get rid of any extra weight, no matter how small the amount was. What's also a big problem is the fact that trainees have to practically give up their privacy and life just for a shot at stardom. They aren't allowed to use their phones as companies take them away until the group debuts or gets their first music show win. Idols like Girls' Generation's Tiffany or G-Friend have spoken about this in the past, with Tiffany sharing that she had to talk to her parents in the US through a payphone. A recent example of this was Stacy, who had their phones taken away with the promise to get them back if they won first place in a public broadcast show. The trainees also can't go out anywhere without supervision anymore, date the people they like until the company approves, or even, at least in some cases, talk to the opposite gender, be in the room alone with them, or even make eye contact with them. This happens in almost every agency, either big ones or small ones, so joining a Big Four agency won't really make a difference in the way that trainees are treated. Many of the extreme examples like the ice cube diet or banning eye contact between male and female idols actually comes from stories shared by idols from major companies such as JYP, SM, and YG. The worst of it all is that even if you do all of these things, like sacrifice your mental and physical health, it's still possible that you won't get a chance to debut. Since the process of debuting, and the fact that there isn't a guarantee in the end that all of your efforts will pay off, it really isn't surprising why young people have chosen to not follow this life. The cruelty doesn't really end when the idols debut either. While things aren't going to be as strict anymore, they're still tied to a slave contract, still have to practice and diet every day, and pander to an audience that see them as their own personal puppet. The pay, if there's any pay at all, is very low compared to the work that's being put in, and it will take a few years for the idols to even get the money due to all the debt that they owe to the company. And then at the end, their careers will only last for a few years. years, so they may choose to pursue another job in the entertainment industry or become YouTubers, influencers, or maybe get an office job. However, there's some people that really want to become celebrities and stars and don't want to give up on their dream yet. In this case, they instead choose to try the Western market, which is more convenient. The Western music industry isn't as saturated as the K-pop one and not as competitive, so you really don't have to go through several years of training and drain yourself to the bone to make it big. Debuting as an artist there is much easier than in Korea due to the lower expectations for artists. As you may know, to become an idol, you have to be good at singing and dancing, but with Western artists, these standards don't really exist as long as you are good at attracting the audience and having a character that is easy for people to relate to. It takes very little for people in the West to become popular or go viral, as we've seen with many cases. Even existing K-pop groups are trying their hand at tackling foreign industries through unusual means. For example, the boy group Blitzers recently made news for auditioning for the talent show Britain's Got Talent. While this was definitely something we haven't seen before, it's also a very smart move, and the members will benefit from it no matter what the result is. If they were to win, they would be getting a prize of £250,000 and a slot at the Royal Variety Performance. Not to mention, it'll be easier for them to get a jump start in the industry due to the exposure they will get. What chance would they have to make a name for themselves coming from a small agency and competing with artists from the Big Four? They have been trying to work their way up in the industry ever since their debut in 2021, but if they went on to do so, they likely would have disbanded in a few years without the general public ever knowing their name. But even though they didn't win, they have got the attention of the Korean and international public, which will greatly benefit them. So far, it looks like this has worked, as the group broke their own record with their latest mini-album, Lunchbox. According to Honto, the album recorded 32,000 copies sold on the first day of the release, breaking their previous record of 20,000 sold copies in the first day. While this may not seem like a lot to people, it's a good sign for the group. Other industries also seem more lucrative just because they don't have an age limit. As a performer in the West, you could continue your career way past your 20s without people having a problem with it. Beyonce, one of the biggest artists in the world, is 42 years old. Taylor Swift is 34, and Lady Gaga is 38. If they were idols, they probably wouldn't have a career in the first place once they reach their mid to late 20s. Idols debut when they're very young, with agencies mostly looking to debut children and teenagers. They'll train them for a few years, and once they debut, they only have about a decade or so before the public loses interest, and that's the best case scenario. While the Western entertainment industry is ageist as well, you don't have to be a literal toddler to start your career, and you can continue doing it as a job as long as you have the support needed. So with middle and high school students hearing all of these stories about idols being overworked, restricted, monitored, and often violated just to have a career that lasts 2 decades at most, why would they choose the idol life after all of that? This is why some people are seeing this as a positive development and something that will help the K-pop industry in the long run.